Hi, Grandpa Bob, back here again, and it's only a few days to the solar eclipse day, and of course what everyone's doing at this point is watching the weather. So if you have a chance to get around the weather into a clear spot, then you're going to really see a great show. For some of us who will be stuck under the clouds, well, that's unfortunately just the way nature is, and that has nothing to do with the solar eclipse. That just has to do with the meteorology of our planet. So, I hope you have good viewing. I hope it's clear. Last time we worked with an oatmeal box, took a push pin through the cardboard end of the oatmeal box, popped it right through there like that, giving us what's often referred to as the pinhole. And then when you hold that viewer up to the sun, it projects onto the plastic end of the oatmeal box, and you can view it like this. The pizza box cardboard thing here that we cut out, and I do refer you back for details back to my first video presentation about the utility of this. This will keep the sun, if you're clear there, off your face. I also recommend putting suntan lotion on because, well, we're coming off of winter and early spring, and our skin's probably fairly sensitive to the sun. So if you do get some clear weather, or even if it's cloudy, bright or cloudy, you can still pick up a sunburn. So put some suntan lotion on your face, especially because you're going to be looking up towards the sun. Okay, so this is the sun shield here, and this is the basic solar viewer, but it produces an image that's adequate to see the partial eclipse phases, but it's a fairly small image there, maybe the size of a pencil eraser. So let me show you what you can do. Canade, would you hand me the double one there? What you can do is cut the bottom of the solar viewer that you had last week. Cut the bottom of that out right around, forming just an empty tube with the viewing screen on it. And take another oatmeal box and attach it so that you end up with that. So that you end up with two oatmeal boxes, right? Two empty face ones. And one plastic end, and one end that you can put the hull in, or use the one from last time, and you'll have a double length solar viewer. Putting that through the cardboard box, again pointing the cardboard end with the hole in it towards the sun, same way as before, you will have a larger image, twice as big, twice as long, a little bit harder to focus, a little bit harder to find where the sun is, to put it on the sun, but it will give you a slightly bigger image. That image will also be a little dimmer as well. The bigger you make it, the dimmer it will get. So there's a double length, giving you twice the image size. Another thing that you can do with just a single viewer is just take your push pin and make some kind of pattern on the bottom of the viewer, and then that will show up as multiple sun images on your projection screen. So you can make some kind of pattern, whatever design you want, and that actually makes it a little easier to find the sun, because you're going to have a field of view there that is wider as far as these images, so you can pick up the images easier and then center your pattern. So that's another thing you can have some fun with, and that is increasing the number of images that you see. Then when you go through the partial eclipse phases, you'll see a whole bunch of partial eclipse views. And so that's a little bit more fun, something you can do. That works out especially well with the basic single viewer. So those are two things that you might want to experiment with. I hope you have clear viewing and see what will be something that's really a memorable time of your life. Okay, we have a simple solar viewer, but it works and will enable you to be safe, because don't look at the sun unless it's during the entire totality. You have to be in that special place along the line of totality. Then during totality itself, you can look at the sun, as we mentioned before. So I refer you to more safety instructions back in my first video. Now I want to tell you in conclusion here, while I'm looking at the weather all the time, the best place seems to be for me, the greatest possibility here in upstate New York is in Syracuse and a little bit north of that. Many places along the line of totality are saying it's going to be cloudy, but we know these things change from not only day to day, but sometimes minute by minute. So keep your eyes looking up, and if it looks like it's cloudy where you are and you can see a clear spot, off in the distance a little bit, maybe you should drive over there. So, allow yourself the ability to move around a little bit, especially in the partial phases. Now, when you get to totality, which for me is going to be around 3 o'clock, then you pretty much need to be where you're going to be, because you only have a few minutes to view it, and trying to move around and out of the clouds in those few minutes will just probably get you in more trouble than it will do you good. In conclusion, I want to talk a little bit about what happened in an eclipse that I had viewed back in 1970. Way back in 1970, there was an eclipse that came up from the south up through the Carolinas and then out to sea. And I traveled with my friends and co-workers up, and my brother too, up or down from where we're located up here in New York, and down to North Carolina to the cliffs of New State Park. Now, it's not going to go there this year. It'll be just, totality doesn't go through that this year. You should look online, of course, and see where the line of totality is, and even more importantly, perhaps, where it's going to be clear from your local weather people. So, anyways, we arrived at the Cliffs of New State Park and started to set up a whole bunch of equipment, telescopes, large cameras, spectrographs, and all kinds of things. There's a big sheet on the ground to try to capture something called shadow bands. But kind of the interesting thing as I think back now over these years was the fact that we had some friends join us. They were not part of our expedition. There were, 4 people in our expedition, and they were, these other people were not part of it, not part of our group, but were an interesting group of people. In those days, there were bands of hippies that traveled around the country. All right, the flower power people, make love not war and all those kinds of things. Happy people out to have a happy time. So, anyways, they had no equipment, but there they were in their sandals and t-shirts and very casual attire. A group of them, I would imagine a dozen or so. People very excited about the solar eclipse. So we set up the equipment. They were very interested in what we were doing as the eclipse progressed, and they would come over and view stuff from our telescopes and from our cameras and things we were using. One setup was a Polaroid camera, and that was getting real-time photographs. We had video, we had everything going at that point. I'm not going to do that kind of stuff this time. I'm going to sit back in an easy chair. I'm going to use my simple solar viewer to watch the partial phases, and when it gets to totality, I'm simply going to look at the sun and see and experience it without all the technical things going on. So things start out, of course, here we're going to use the bottom of one of our oatmeal boxes here, and also part of our cutout from our pizza box lid. The sun will move across from, the moon will move across the sun from right to left, and that's called the eastward drift. So things are going to progress towards the east. Now when the moon, which is slightly, it's exaggerated here because I'm not cutting this to scale or anything, but as the moon moves across the solar disk, when it first touches it, is called first contact. Okay, now you need a viewer to see this. The hippies, the group of hippies didn't have any viewer or anything, but they were having fun, laughing and joking and a little bit of dancing and stuff. Okay, so you need your viewer, and first contact is what you can see when the moon takes its first little nip out of the sun. Then as it moves across, of course, the light is going to get dimmer and dimmer. Now you might not notice that until it's quite far along, because it's going to take about an hour, right? So an hour before totality, the moon starts moving across the solar disk. You will notice it as it gets closer and closer to covering up the entire sun, but it'll be so slow, even though the light will be going down when it's, here you're going to lose around 30% and 50% and higher and higher. You might not notice it at first. What you will start to notice as it gets close to totality, which is second contact, when the moon covers up the entire solar disk, you should notice some things. Be aware of your environment. Has it gotten cooler? Have you noticed that it's gotten cooler? Or the birds stopped singing? Is it getting dimmer on the Earth's surface because you will start to really notice it as you get closer and closer to the crescent, tiny little crescent phases of uh, the solar eclipse. Now, as you get right up close to totality, there may be, depending on how things uh, go, you may notice a kind of bright blurb right here with a little bit of the ring-like effect. That's called the diamond ring effect. And although not overly spectacular, it is kind of nice to look up, glance quickly at it, because there's still a tiny little bit of the sun that will still be putting out a lot of its light. Well, the hippies were just dancing around, singing a little bit. Now, as we got closer and closer to totality, and it started to become noticeable to everyone, hippies and everyone, they picked up the pace a little bit. You know, dancing became a little more anticipatory of what was coming up, and the cooler temperature too. So they're dancing and singing and having a good time, and it's picking up, and the volume is picking up of these hippies. Okay, now just before totality, when there's a very thin ridge of the sun's photosphere visible, the thin nature of the light as it strikes the Earth's upper atmosphere, depending on how the Earth's upper atmosphere is rippling, will produce a rippling effect on the Earth's surface. These are called shadow bands, and they move across the Earth's surface relatively rapidly. So if you look maybe on an expanse of clear area, you might see these shadow bands. On the other hand, if you have some trees around and the shadow bands occur, then as the shadow bands hit the trees, they may look like little dark butterflies. And as they move over the trees, you might see this fluttering effect. And that's what we had. We had some trees in the park and stuff, and so rather than, focus on the ground, everybody was looking around, hippies included, looking around at the trees and seeing these little dark butterflies. Well, you can imagine that produced quite an effect on the group of hippies. Now they're screaming and yelling, and just, it's over the top at this point. I don't know if they saw the diamond ring effect or not, but they sure saw the little dark butterflies, the little shadows looking like little butterflies as they appeared on vertical surfaces. So things have really gotten to an upward tempo, and then of course comes second contact. Second contact is when the moon completely covers the sun, blocks out the photosphere of the sun, but the rest of the sun, the really big part of the sun, is the corona. And that is very thin. We can't see that ordinarily because it's so thin that it's not enough light to see when the photosphere is visible. But when the photosphere is blocked out, then you can see the corona of the sun. And that's certainly an exciting thing. And at that point, the dancing, the yelling, the singing, as the hippies looked up towards the total eclipse, stopped like that, awestruck. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. So that was my hippie experience. It was hard not to notice that, even though I had all kinds of experiments going on. It was awesome to see their response to the total solar eclipse. So look for the diamond ring, look for the, right before totality, look for the shadow bands, or maybe little, if we're lucky, little black butterflies. That is not a guaranteed effect. I won't guarantee that, because that depends on the Earth's upper atmosphere as this thin edge of light right before totality shines in the Earth's upper atmosphere. It's not completely understood what produces them, but we do know that sometimes they're very pronounced, and other times they're hardly anything at all or very faint, and you might not even notice them if it's one of those times. But, be alert. Be, alert to your environment and looking around, listening to birds, looking around, and maybe you'll see some little black butterflies flitting all around. Or maybe you'll see bands of light, like lines of light across the ground, the shadow bands. Then the sun starts to come out from the other side as the moon moves across, all right? And you could have a reverse diamond ring effect. What we're dealing with here is third contact, when the photosphere starts to come out from behind the moon's shadow. And you might see a diamond ring. I didn't notice one after totality was over. I did notice it going in. I also didn't see any shadow bands as it came back out, which meant maybe the cooling of the total solar eclipse had changed the Earth's upper atmosphere in some way. I saw no butterflies at third contact. Then, of course, the moon will continue to move across the solar disk, exposing more and more of the photosphere. And you can use your solar eclipse viewer again after third contact and enjoy the reverse of what you saw in the hour before the totality. You can view that after totality, another time of partial eclipses. The path of totality is, of course, we're very weather dependent. Other portions of the country that will get only partial phases may be clearer than our path of totality. We don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know what's going to happen anywhere. But you may have, you may be in New York City, you may be in Albany, you may be somewhere, not along the path of totality, somewhere else in the country, far down in the southern states, but you're not in the path of totality. Then you'll be able to watch first contact. You'll be able to look at first contact, and then you'll see the moon move across the solar disk. Right, from first contact, it'll move across the solar disk, but never completely block out the photosphere. So that photosphere will dominate your view. You might notice some things. You might notice it getting cooler. You might notice, the appearance of the color of the countryside and the illumination that is illuminating the Earth's surface. So, I told you some things, and if you're lucky, you'll be in a clear area. If you're really lucky, there are still some groups of hippies. Yeah, they're around. Somebody told me they all live in Ithaca, New York. I don't believe that. But I think they've dispersed somewhat anyway. But anyways, if they join you, they will enliven your experience. So, good luck on the weather. Hope you see it.